broadcasting from deep in the Eublepharis galaxy, on a small planet called Geckonia, east of the Albino Hills and south of the raging Leucistic River, comes the one, the only Gecko Nation Radio.
Good evening, citizens of Gecko Nation. Today is January 11th, 2015. I want to welcome everybody to tonight's show. And tonight, Tim and I are we're going to talk about leopard gecko morphs. We're going to have a casual conversation. And I'd like to welcome any and all of you guys to call in and weigh in on the topics, maybe give us some topics that you'd like us to hit on. And we'll go from there. Got a lot of great feedback in the group. You guys picked some good morphs to hit on, and we're going to definitely do that. Let me go ahead and grab Tim. What's up, Tim? What's going on in the jungle?
What's happening? Not much. I haven't even really gotten to do too much work with my geckos and stuff since White Plains last weekend. I've been so busy this week, but everything's going pretty well. How about you?
Good. I just noticed a few ovulations finally starting here with some of the females. I was hoping they wouldn't ovulate so soon because I feel like I haven't even, it doesn't feel like the breeding season really ended for me for some reason. But I was hoping to get like a little break, but they're starting up already and the tails are rattling. And it looks like, within a few weeks, they'll probably have some of my first eggs on the ground. What about you?
Well, that's what happens when you don't cool them down.
I actually am cooling. I'm cooling a lot of animals down, actually. In fact, there's some projects that I'm not even going to breed this year, and for a variety of reasons. A few of the projects just weren't really good sellers last season, and there wasn't really a lot of interest. And I feel that if I don't, some other breeders feel the same way. Some things, if we don't, keep making more of, maybe it'll get to the point where they're rarer and they'll be more demand, hopefully. And the one project that I'm speaking of is the Black Pearl Charcoal crosses. They look great. They're cool, and the project has a lot of merit. But I don't think they're, in my opinion, after working with them for like 3 seasons now, I don't think they're worthy of the title of being a Black Pearl. It's great to put marketing terms on different morphs, and I definitely support that if you're working on a special project. And but these aren't Black Pearls. I don't know. What do you think about that project, Tim?
I think originally it sounded very interesting. I think it was unfortunate that that hypos were used to breed some of the early on individuals of that project. So I think that kind of certainly did not help the project. But I haven't, I've never worked with them personally, so I have to just kind of go by pictures and stuff that I've seen. But yeah, it seems to not be exactly, what it's labeled. But that happens, and I think it's certainly something that could be improved upon with future generations. Yeah,
and it's going to take time. And just like the work done overseas with the Black Knights, which I think are great, I think it's really cool that someone spent a lot of time line breeding for dark color. I really do. It's really not a project that I would really invest in only because of the fact that it was line bred so heavily. But the fact of the matter is, those geckos are very dark. But with this Black Pearl project, I don't see it happening anytime soon without a lot of line breeding. Now, I've produced a few patternless versions that are very dark, and but they have the patternless gene in them. So, that's the other thing. How do you get a gecko that's just black without anything else going on?
And how have those turned out for you?
Well, they look great they look very, very black from the day they hatch to about 30 grams, and then they kind of turn into a dark brown, which still looks really cool, but it's not a black. You know what I mean? It's not. Black's my favorite color. Okay, and if anybody would really want a melanistic black gecko, it's me. But I haven't. I don't know. I haven't seen anything that's jet black. I mean, the black knights definitely come close. I would like to find the melanistic gene. You know, I've seen these melanistic blue tongues. They look awesome. Those things are jet black, and it's a genetic trait. You know, that's so far the real leucistic and the real melanistic are two genes that we haven't discovered yet with leopard geckos. You would think after 30 years somebody would hit on those already. What do you think? What do you think the holdup is, Tim?
Why don't we get into the sponsors and then after we'll continue this conversation.
Sounds good. All right, folks. Gecko Nation Radio would not be possible, especially without your support and, of course, our amazing sponsors. Check them out. Definitely patronize them. Make sure you tell them you're a fan of Gecko Nation Radio. They'll take care of you. Here's for some of them now, and we'll play the rest at the halfway break.
Gecko Nation Radio is a David's Fine Geckos creation and production. You can visit the show's Facebook page at Gecko Nation Radio. I also have a great family-friendly group on Facebook called Gecko Nation. Apply for membership today. Gecko Nation Radio is sponsored by Reptiles Express is the absolute best live animal shipping company with great low rates. Debbie is the queen of customer service and will make sure your precious cargo gets to where it needs to. They also have a wide array of shipping supplies from deli cups, snake bags, heat packs, and more. Visit reptilesexpress.com and become a member today. Longhorn Geckos is a father and son collaboration. Daryl and Cade Burton specialize in the best Super Tangelos, Pastel Raptors, white and yellows, and really nice wild types. Follow them on Facebook at Longhorn Geckos and on their new website coming soon. Ohio Gecko is famous for amazing tangerines, snows, and other very unique leopard gecko projects. Thad also has some incredible fat tail morphs available from stingers to starbursts. Visit him online at ohiogecko.com and at expos in the Northeast. He is also the owner of geckoforums.net. Dale's Bearded Dragons is your one-stop source for any reptile supply products that you may need, from Exoterra, Zoomed, Rapashi, Repcal, Fluker, and much, much more, and all at 20 to 50% cheaper than your local pet store or big chain pet store. They are also the biggest reptile supply distributor at most of the Northeast expos. Contact them directly online at dalesbeardeddragons.com or message me on Facebook and I'll put you in touch with the owner.
All right, folks, we are back. And also want to mention that if you guys like what we do here at Gecko Nation Radio, definitely check out our affiliate, Herpentine Radio. They're also on Blog Talk, and Justin and JD have been on the air now for, I think, 3 years, and they do a great job every week. So definitely check them out. Tim, where do we want to send all the new folks to get the best information on geckos?
Geckoforums.net.
That's right. Going strong since 2006. It is a complete archive of basically everything that's been happening in the gecko world during that time. And it's very easily searchable. Okay, so if you have a specific topic or question in mind, type it in, and you're going to see just a lot of different information pop up from very experienced breeders and keepers and hobbyists alike. So definitely open up an account, start posting in there, because Gecko Forums will endure. It's going to be there. So, it's just definitely a good resource. All right, before the break, Tim, we were talking a little bit about different morphs, and we talked earlier today about some things too. I'll let you start the discussion for tonight. Well, what would you like to touch on first? What kind of morphs?
Well, let's continue where we left off from the beginning of the show. So you were saying that you would like a either recessive or dominant trait to pop up of the melanistic morph, correct?
Absolutely.
And you were saying that from what you've seen, you haven't been too impressed. But what the topic that I was going to bring up is, look at bandits. So bandits basically keep a lot of that juvenile coloration into adulthood, correct? Like their
black,
pattern, the dark, and the bold markings, they keep their juvenile pattern into adulthood, basically, right?
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
So if that can be line bred and selected for, I think it's just a matter of time before these melanistic projects improve to the point that you're looking for.
Mm-hmm. But still, wouldn't it be easier and better if we had just a gene
so you want the shortcut?
Of course. Well, hey, listen, I respect anybody that puts years and years into developing and all of these morphs. I mean, I have a lot of respect for all the breeders that got us to this point, of course. And, anybody that's putting any kind of effort, years of effort into any project is definitely worthy of respect. But, you can't beat a dominant trait or an incomplete dominant that just, it makes it easy to produce what you want within a season or two.
I have to agree with Ron that the bandits are my favorite, and I like the variety of it being a polygenic trait, where each one that pops out is different, and if you wanted to get a different look to them, you can select for it, and if you kind of stop paying attention for a while and you don't select the best breeders and you just keep throwing them together, you'll lose the original look. It always evolves, and that's what I enjoy. So that's kind of what I lean towards in terms of my, picking out future breeders.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean that's the key with bandits. They're definitely my favorite, if not. Well, they're one of my favorites. I have so many favorites, I can't even pin it down anymore. But, bandits are definitely one of the best morphs that we have. And
so what is it about bandits that you like?
Well, what's not to like? I mean, they're just so striking in appearance. I mean, they stand out. I mean, you put on a table or show, you put a bunch of albinos and tangerines and all kinds of stuff on the table, and you put one bandit, that bandit is going to be the center of attention every time. It's just a good bandit with nice, bold black markings and bright yellow and even some lavender in there. It's just amazing. And now I've been breeding bandits, really good bandits, for a few seasons now, and I've noticed that breeding the best bandits together doesn't always give you the best results sometimes. I mean, we definitely go for full nose bands and reduced head patterns. If you breed two bandits with full nose bands together, not all of those babies are going to have full nose bands, oddly enough. And you would think they would, but based on the nature of polygenics, yes, you do have to keep breeding the best together, no matter what, but still not going to guarantee you that the babies are going to look as good as the parents all the time. And that brings me to this whole thing about crossing. And the only way to discover new things is by mixing stuff up. I definitely agree. I'm of the opinion, too, though, that, and just from my own experience, mixing bandits with other things, when you line breed those babies back together, pick up on different traits, they start looking like bandits again. So I appreciate, like right now we got a lot of people mixing bandits with tangerines, and that seems to be the new trend. And why don't you tell me your feelings about that project? Because I know you've been trying to do that too.
Well, first I just wanted to say that I actually outcrossed some bandits the past couple seasons, and I've produced the nose band in the first generation on occasion. So I found that interesting. But you're talking about the crossing tangerines with bandits, correct?
Yes, and I've seen a lot of great-looking geckos I definitely think it's a worthy pursuit, don't get me wrong. I've seen a lot of great geckos that look really cool from the 20-gram to 30-gram range. However, I haven't seen any adults that hold that black and orange, hold the black markings well. It seems to break up and kind of fade a bit. And to me, it's like, you're basically working with half bandit, half tangerine, and to regain 100% of each trait is nearly impossible. You have to keep line breeding and hope that either trait is going to get stronger with time. But because once you cross it once, those babies are 50% of each parent, basically, if you want to look at it that way. So, I mean, I'm hoping. I know the goal is to produce an orange and black gecko. An orange gecko with really strong black markings. I get it. I just don't think it's going to be so easy to do. And I think if it was easy to do, it would have been done a long time ago. But, I mean, hey, people are working towards it, and the crosses, they look cool for a while. They do. But I haven't seen any adults out there that really, grab me. But what do you think about it?
Well, think about this. Think about the wild type leopard geckos that Ron started off with 35 generations ago. Mm-hmm. And then look at a bandit. And if we've come that far in that many generations, the possibilities are endless for the future.
Oh yeah, I definitely it'll happen.
And then on top of that, it hasn't been. Ron didn't start. Didn't start the bandit project when he started breeding. It evolved, and I would say it's even less than maybe around a third of that time he's been breeding bandits. So if you take that into consideration, think about, another, length of time equal to that, another, 10 generations or so, and think about how much further we'll be in that time. And I just think it's a great project, and it's the one that I'm seeking, that I'm, holding back for and selectively breeding for every generation, and I think it's going to be really cool when they just keep improving, because they will keep improving with every single generation if you select for it. But the big issue that I think of what you're talking about without mentioning it is that most tangerines were bred for hypomelanism, the whole time that people were breeding for tangerines, they were also breeding for super hypomelanism, and right. Which is another line bred trait that was the hot thing, 15 years ago. That's what everybody wanted. They wanted the most orange and the least spots. And I think most people now are taking these tangerines that are hypomelanistics and breeding them with the bandits, which is wiping out the pattern. So I think if we can find some tangerines that are not hypomelanistic, that's what's really going to advance the project of getting the bright orange color with the bandit pattern.
I'm looking on Ron's site, and he's been breeding bandits since '95, so, almost 15 years. And perhaps, I agree with you. I was going to touch on the whole thing with the tangerine, too. I agree with you, and I think...
Wait. Do your math again there, Dave.
Oh, wait, yeah, 95. Yeah, 19 years. Okay. You know what? Because he says for 12 years...
Wait. Do your math again.
Hold on a second.
It's 2015.
Right, so it would be 19 years.
20 years.
Well, almost, yeah. Oh, yeah, 2015 now, that's right. Well, dude, I'm going to be writing 2014 on my checks and everything else probably until April at least, so I don't catch up until halfway through the year. So. But yeah.
I had to get on you for that one. You lobbed it up there, you know.
All right. Well, I can always fall back on you calling me Steve on your first night on the show as a co-host. So.
You are
That's pretty funny. I am Steve. That's right. I am. A lot of people don't get the whole. They don't understand the whole Bold Bandit thing, and it's clear right here on Ron's site, folks. You know, if a bandit doesn't have all the traits of a regular bandit with the nose band and the head markings, maybe it may have more or less head markings, but the nose band is the big thing. If a bandit is bred and it's proven that it's from Ron's line of bandits, and it's you can count on the breeder you bought it from as such, but it doesn't have that nose band, it's still a bandit. It's still 100% bandit blood. It's just not a regular bandit, not a full mask bandit. So Ron terms them as bold bandits. So, still a bandit, folks. Still just as good. He doesn't have any.
I usually
for sale too.
If when I'm selling them, I'll label them as bold stripes or bold jungle. The ones without the nose band, and if people inquire or whatever, or I'll tell them it's from it's got bandit blood in it, but it's it doesn't have the nose band.
Yeah, I'm looking at
and obviously if you breed them together or you even if you outcross, you still may produce bandit. But
right.
The original pair of bandits that I started off with did, I picked up directly from Ron, and I think the original male that I have is pretty unique looking. I haven't seen too many other bandits that have the same look. The original female that I have, I've seen, other bandits similar to her, but the one original male that I have, I think, is pretty unique, and that's but at the same time, he doesn't have the bright yellow. So I've been, the babies from that pairing, I'm certainly going to select for, the ones with his markings, but with brighter yellow coloration.
Mhm. Yeah. Wow, he's got some incredible ones on here for sale. Really nice ones. A lot of the best ones already sold, but yeah, they're cool, man. Now, bandits are awesome. We got some great feedback from the folks in the group today about some of the other marks that they'd like us to discuss a little bit. And Tori Bethany wants us to touch on white and yellow extreme emerines. And I could definitely weigh in on that. What do you think about white and yellow extreme emerines?
I have to admit again that I'm not too experienced with them. I've never bred them. I do have a male that might be a white and yellow, but I'm not even sure yet. So you can go ahead and weigh in on that one all by yourself.
Okay. I've been breeding them since last year, and I have a few here, a couple nice ones. What I've found so far, and I don't know if it's the emerine or the tangerine at work, but what I've found so far is that some of the white and yellow extreme emerines look just as cool as a regular extreme emerine. Like, I'll produce extreme emerines that have like high sides, high white sides, or they'll look like high white sides to an extent, but it'll be like, I don't know, it'll be like a lighter orange on the side and darker orange on the top, and they look really cool. But then I've produced those in the past without the white and yellow gene. So I'm wondering if, and I haven't seen a lot of tangerine or super hypos tangerines, white and yellows, that really stand out, and you could say, wow, that's definitely a white and yellow, because we've seen tangerines with high white sides as well, and I know high white sides can be a trait for white and yellows, but I think extreme emerines, if you're working with a good line of extreme emerines, and I think the best ones come from Ron Tremper, of course, you're going to produce awesome animals either way. So it may be difficult to tell which one's a white and yellow or not. So I think a few more seasons, perhaps, with different breeders working on them. We're going to give us some more clues as to what's going on with the white and yellow gene in particular. We're still learning a lot about it, how it reacts with different traits and genes. So we'll give it time. But we were talking about the bandits. Corey from Riptide Reptiles, he's got some nice bandits. And he wants us to talk a little bit about reverse stripes, bolds, and he wants to know if he thinks that they're recessive or line-bred. Well, I can tell you right now, they're like a line-bred polygenic trait. Have you done a lot of work with stripes, Tim?
I've done work with stripes. Actually, the first leopard gecko that I ever got back in 1992 was a stripes individual.
Oh, that's right. I remember you telling that story. Yeah.
But I've never produced nor had a reverse stripe.
Okay. Stripes are very. I mean, I've been breeding some stripes and reverse stripes for 5 years, but in that time, I find it hard to predict how they're going to react when you breed them. Like, especially, I can go back to this one project, and you guys can go on my YouTube channel. The name of the video is called Dad, Mom, and the Kids. And basically, I paired two geckos together that should have never produced stripes, but they did. They produced, like, incredible. One was a bold stripe, and one was a perfect stripe from head to tail. And it almost acted like a het. And that's what we think how they work sometimes. But in the case of the bandits, I don't know. It seems to act a little differently, and maybe it's just because I admit I just don't have a good grasp on how stripes work. But I don't know if there's any real way to predict the outcomes based on what we're working with today, because a lot of these animals have been, bred by other breeders for different traits, and so, to know everything that's in them is kind of tough. To help you predict
Dave,
the outcomes.
Why don't we hit on this? Are you talking about stripes as in perfect striped animals, or are you talking stripes and jungles lumped in together?
That's a good question. Maybe there's different types of stripes, right? I mean,
I kind of see it as, all bandits most bandits are jungle patterned, which means they do not have a perfectly straight stripe from their head to their tail. Some have a stripe on the body or a stripe on the tail, and most have a jungle pattern, on the body. And I think that's more oftenly produced when you breed bandits. I think it's more often that you produce jungle patterned animals. And in terms of a jungle, I'm just talking about, the basic wild type leopard gecko hatchling has two bands across the back of their body. And in captive breeding, selective breeding in captivity, we've produced ones with patterns other than that. So in terms of that, I kind of talk about jungles and stripes together as being different than the band that was the wild type morph. Would you agree with that, Dave?
Yes, and I understand. And with bandits, breeding bandit to bandit, yeah, you can almost, count on certain look most of the time. With my experience, though, I bred a jungle that wasn't even a strong jungle. It was a Gem Snow Jungle Bell, all right? And it was head eclipse, and I bred that to a normal that was het for radar, okay? A normal gecko. She was normal. And I produced perfect stripes from that. Well, one perfect stripe and one serious bold stripe. And they were incredible looking. But you would have never thought it came out of that combo if you think of stripes the way you just described them with the bandits. You wouldn't think it would happen that way. So that's what I'm saying. Maybe stripes can work differently. Because obviously, if you breed enough striped bandits together, you don't produce reverse striped bandits. So maybe there's a different stripe component that, can produce other things. I mean, what do you think?
I think it's just, we're talking about polygenic traits, and obviously what you just talked about, that pairing had a lot of different genes mixed up in it. You know what I mean? It wasn't, right. Both parents had, many different genes in their background, even though, what did you say? The mother was het, but she looked normal, but she was still carrying other genes right. that right. she wasn't expressing. So when you talk about, polygenic, it's not, it's not guaranteed. When you breed an albino, a Tremper albino to another Tremper albino, 100% of those babies are going to be Tremper albinos. But when you breed two polygenic traits together, you'll never get 100% of anything.
Right. Right. But you still got to do it to maintain that certain look that you're going for. You still got to, breed those best ones together no matter what. And, that's what we're seeing. All right, let's take a crack at some of these other topics here. Let's see. Jamie Boyles wants us to hit on the eclipse gene and test breeding snows. Oh, that's a tough one in itself right there. Test breeding snows. Yeah, I've been doing that. I definitely I wanted to make sure my gem snow line was pure, and it is, thank God. But it took me 3 years to be able to confidently say that. Snow gene. I only work with two snows. I work the Max and the gems. I think the gems are the coolest. That's just my opinion. To test breed a snow, if you just got a regular snow from a pet store, I wouldn't even waste any time or energy test breeding it seriously, because God knows what's in that thing. But if you got it from a respectable breeder and you still want to, test it out, you definitely have to acquire something from another breeder that can say they're 100% sure that this particular snow is pure and not mixed up. And that's the tough part. Like, who can you trust, right? That's how I always felt. Like, who can I trust with this? And at the end of the day, you don't know what goes on in other breeders' collections. I pride myself on doing everything as honestly as I can, and I want to be able to make the best presentation, and I also want people to feel 100% confident in my genetics, right? But at the end of the day, you didn't breed my animals, I did. And so, that's what makes us all feel like test breeding something sooner or later. And I think we should all work towards getting 100% confident with our projects. And I think a lot of us that are really serious about this are definitely doing it. But I don't know, Tim, what do you think about test breeding snows? And then we can talk about the eclipses.
Well, actually, I purchased a snow not even knowing that it was a snow. I just was looking for some new animals. I had let my collection dwindle down for years and years, and decided I should get some new blood. So I went out, and I wasn't looking for anything fancy, so I just picked up a not so expensive gecko from a breeder at a show, and I didn't even ask, and I ended up producing a Max Snow baby, and so I realized that the mother was a Max Snow, and what was interesting is I only produced one Max Snow. She had, I guess, maybe 6 or 8 clutches in that breeding season, and of that, only one of them was a Max Snow.
Oh wow! Interesting.
So I pretty much was test breeding, even though I wasn't, it wasn't necessarily my intention. But but that's certainly the limit, you know, of my experience test breeding snows.
Yeah. Well, I've been, you know, to elaborate more on my test breeding. I got my gem snow line from Paul Allen of the Bright Albino, and all my gem snows, well, actually most of my gem snows come from one original male that I procured from Paul, and I wanted to make sure that gem snow was just gem and not anything else, so I outcrossed that gem snow to Puri fasciolatus, and spent the next few years breeding those together, and I've done it so many times now that if there was a super to be found in there, I totally would have produced one, and I haven't. So I can confidently say 100% now that my gem snow line is pure. And there's breeders out there who are selling gem snows, and you know, we know they're not pure. But I think everybody should have, you know, to feel that confident about your project really makes you feel good. Seriously, it took years to figure that out, and it's a lot of work and a lot of geckos. But you know, going forward from now until forever, as long as I'm doing this, I know that I got a straight up gem snow line. That's so important to a breeder like me. And you know, a lot of people out there are doing stuff like that. I know John Scarborough is working really hard to get his projects, you know, where you can say 100% that they are what they are. And, I mean, for the most part, I mean, statistically, if you're buying your animals from, you know, as close to the original sources that produced them or from those original breeders and, you know, geckos that are just, you know, have a good reputation and breeders that have a good reputation, you're statistically already starting out with the best geckos you can find. So from that point on, I mean, the further you get away from those sources, you know, that's when things start, you know, turning into, you know, no known hets and stuff like that. And for those of you guys that don't know what no known hets means, it just means the person has no clue what's in it. It doesn't mean that there's no hets. It means they just don't know. So it could have 10 different hets in there, but they just don't know. But
wait, but John uses that when
right, I do too. We all do if we have to. I mean, it's a way to I mean, we got to honestly describe certain things, right? I mean, we don't want to tell something.
I think it's certainly varying degrees, you know, and you have to. I think it all comes back to the reputation of the breeder that you're getting it from. If you ask them, like, you know, if they're representing something as no known hets, and you say, oh well, you know, what have you test bred it for? And they say, okay, well I've test bred it one or two things, then that still means it could be, you know, het for a lot of other things. But if they tell you, you know, okay, well, the only things that it could be het for are this and this, and I've test bred the line for, you know, a couple generations and it's never produced one of those, then, you know, they're not guaranteeing, they're not saying it's 100% het free, but you're at least limiting the possibilities.
Right, and I mean, that's a good place to start if that's what you're looking for, something, you know, as far as purity goes. This reminds me of the Mackie Fascios from Marsha, which are incredible. Marsha took a project and really, she didn't expect it to become as popular as it did, but what she did was really cool. She just took a really good Max Snow line that she had and she crossed it with E. fasciolatus. And the original ones that she used, the original Max Snows, were head eclipse, okay? And she was confident, she was 99% confident there wasn't anything else in there, okay? So it was only possible head eclipse. All right, so I bought a bunch of these things from her, and I wanted to make sure that that was true. So I did all kinds of outcrossing with them. I bred them together, right? And I did all kinds of outcrossing too, just to check, and the only thing that popped up was an eclipse once in a while. So that's another thing that, you know, that project. But then you got to keep in mind now, she, for like 3 or 4 years, she used one male and like a certain group of females for the project. And then towards the end of the project, she switched females. So at that point, that line it would need to be test bred all over again if you're a fanatical like I am. But they're still the coolest, Max Stows that I've seen. And, it's a lot of work test breeding. It really is. But you produce a lot of geckos that you either have to, when you market them, you have to honestly tell people, or you could be like some people. I'm not saying anything, but I'm not like that. You got to tell people, this is what it is. It's a test animal, and you usually don't get a lot of money for those unless they look really cool. But I don't know. I think the Mackie fascios are really cool, and when I sell my Mackie fascios, it's impossible to know what each one has in it. I mean, as far as the eclipse gene, if it is eclipse, so I say it's got a slim chance of being head eclipse, and most people really want that anyway because they want to make a snow eclipse that's cool, and they want to make snow eclipses without the Tremper albino, so that's the project to use for that. So, Mackie fascios, possible at eclipse, that's the way to go. And if you can find yourself a pure eclipse, which I don't work with, I have a couple of things here that, are on their way to becoming pure eclipses, but if you can get yourself a pure eclipse and breed that to Mackie fascio, you can produce some really cool, total eclipses in the future, a couple seasons away from that. But what do you think of the Mackie fascios, Tim?
I actually kind of steer away from those crosses. I guess probably my favorite one would be the Afghan crosses because they're certainly my favorite of the different subspecies. But I just I don't like when you have something like that could be eventually down the road, and this is just my opinion. I don't knock anybody who works with them. It's just not my one of my favorite things. But I think it kind of gets scary when they're okay. So the first generation is 50%, and then the next if you don't breed them back to fascios, the next generation, then they're 25%, and they eventually it just kind of gets lost. And I'm not ignorant. At the same time, I do know that all of the most of the leopard gecko morphs that we already work with are, have mixed background. When they originally imported them, they didn't label where they were from or anything more than just a leopard gecko. So I know they're all kind of mutts, but now that we do know that, I just kind of steer away from that for that reason, because
Okay.
So
let me touch on that.
After a couple generations, and if the fascios were, which they aren't right now, but if they were worth a significant amount of money, people would market, or would label everything that had some fascio blood in it as a fascio and try to charge more money for it.
Well, to touch on what you said originally about it getting lost, and I can appreciate that, and that's something that would bother me too. I bought one male, actually, two males from Marsha, and I bought 8 females over the course of 2 seasons. And I've been not only did I use those males to outcross, and one season I used a couple of females too, but from here on in, I've been breeding Mackie fascio to Mackie fascio, and I have a pretty diverse bloodline from that now. So they're all, I'm not diluting it.
Exactly.
It's just that's
but
the point. Yeah.
Basically, what I was, but what I was saying is like down the line when it's sold to you and then to somebody else and then somebody else and then somebody else.
Yeah, they're gonna.
And then down the line, it'll either get lost or they'll be 100% fascios.
Right. Well, that's why you gotta find breeders that are serious and you can trust them with what they're working on.
Exactly. And at the same time, do it the way that you did it, where you have a group that exactly what the genetics are, and you can outbreed some, but you still have that original group that 100% of what's in there.
And what's even cooler over the last couple of seasons now I've produced like some of them that have a markedly different, it's slightly different, but it's enough that you could say, wow, those are just a little cooler than the regular Mackie Fascios. And I've been setting aside those because statistically, like half of them come out with this just a little more erratic look to them. And I call them Mackie Fascio Special Project, and I've only let a couple out. But, that's the thing. Like, even with a project that you think is just going to stay the same because you're keeping it pure and you're keeping it straight, like, surprises will still happen. And I think that's the Fasciolatus blood at work because it's more or less a new introduction to that particular line. So that's, to me, is what keeps me so engaged in this whole thing. It's like I always say, it's like a genetic chess game. The outcomes are going to be it's fascinating the way the genes just start evolving. Like these I'd like to talk a little bit about the smoothies tonight, I don't call them scalers. A few breeders are producing them. I don't think they're true scalers. But we got a bunch of callers on the line. Let's take a couple calls, too. All right. Let's see. Who's been on the longest? Elsa's been on the longest. I know she wanted to ask a question. Hey, Elsa.
Hi,
live
guys.
on air.
Hi, guys.
How are you?
I've got a Tremper male that is 66% eclipse. Two lighter colored. They've got patterns, but they're lighter colored female eclipse, and two tangerine females. Only one of which will be ready this season. But I'm thinking, I've got too much going on with only one male, and I need a backup male. I'm mostly interested in working with the eclipse. So where else could I take that? I mean, I don't know what I'm asking, really. I had it formulated earlier, but where
I know
else
what you're
would you
saying.
take? Yeah, where else would you guys take it? I'm just interested.
I'll go first, and then you go, Tim. I would get a nice tangerine eclipse for those tangerines, and I would, work with the original male with the other ones. But what do you think, Tim? Tim, you there?
Sorry about that. You have to go with what you're interested in. What's the look that you like? What are you looking to produce? Are you looking to produce tangerine eclipses? Are you looking to produce albinos? What is it that you?
A little bit of both.
Which look do you like?
A little bit of both, really.
Well, then Dave made a perfect suggestion for you then.
Okay,
because
thanks.
you'll have a little bit of everything, and then you could also, hold back some of your first few eggs from the season.
Right.
And incubate them at the higher temperature, and you'll produce, and then you'll have several males to choose from, and you can keep back one of those males.
Okay, thanks.
Cool. Thanks, Elsa. Jamie in the chat room asks, is there something that should be avoided when working with the eclipse gene? What do you think, Tim?
I've never produced an eclipse, so I don't have an answer for that.
Okay. Jamie, from my experience working with the eclipses, the eclipse can in a lot of, I think in a majority of cases, tend to wash out other morphs like albinos, kind of, take away from the boldness of the tangerine in tangerine stuff. Unless, of course, you're working with like a really nice tangerine eclipse line. I mean, and that takes years of line breeding. I know Matt did a lot of work with his solar eclipses, and to get an eclipse to hold that kind of color takes time. Or unless you want to invest in something like that in a higher end animal. And I think John Scarborough is going to have some of those available if he doesn't already. But as far as something to be avoided. Well, you definitely don't want to mix them with marbleized because that would be mixing two eye pigment traits. So definitely don't do that, Jamie. I don't know. I don't think there's anything really to avoid, Just understand, though, that the Eclipse gene, unless it's a pure Eclipse, a lot of them are likely head for Tremper too. And
I was just going to say that exact same thing. That's something to always be, because obviously, originally they came from Ron, right? So and at the time that they came out, he was probably crossing most of his animals with albinos, and so that's why it's something, to watch out for, or if that's something you want to produce, that's certainly a direction you should head in.
And she follows up with, genetically, can blizzards and snows negate the gene? Don't black eyes appear? And with the snows, yes, but that only occurs with max super snows. You'll get solid black eyes. So technically, you can still mix that with the Eclipse. But as far as blizzards go, blizzards have their own eye pigment traits that only occur with blizzards. So if you're breeding a blizzard Eclipse and you want to make blizzard Eclipses, sometimes it can be tough to determine, because if you're only looking at the eye trait and the blizzard gene kind of overwhelms just about everything else, you're not going to know for sure 100%, unless you are well into that project this few seasons and you can do the statistics. But yes, I mean, the Eclipse gene is a lot of fun. I mean, I think the best thing to do with Eclipses is the snow Eclipses and the max super snow Eclipses. I think those things look great. Other than that, I mean, the high tangerine Eclipses, to me, I don't know, it's a tangerine with funky eyes, but it's I don't know, it's worthy to do. It's a worthy animal. It's a worthy project that Matt and whoever else, a few other breeders may have worked on. But it's just, it's a really nice tangerine with crazy eyes. But you can have, unless you're really set on those snake eye look or the solid black eye look, you can get yourself a really nice tangerine. I mean, call it a day. But it's up to you.
Honestly, I just wanted to hang on one second, Dave. I just wanted to say, along the lines of where this conversation has gone, if I was to just be getting into leopard geckos, and let's say I just started breeding last year and started producing a couple, and now I'm looking to now that I have a little bit of experience, I'm looking to get into a new project and start taking my hobby further.
Yeah.
And there was a certain look that I wanted to breed for. I would not be afraid to go for to get some genetics from different breeders and kind of mix them up. Say if I wanted to get into tangerines, I wouldn't be afraid to get tangerines from a couple different breeders and start going for the look that I want. And then later on, I could always test breed when I started getting animals that had the look that I really wanted, produce a male from them and take that male and now start test breeding to find out what that male is carrying,
Well, yeah, I had that idea too.
Because there are so many, and there are other big breeders that do that, that don't necessarily get 100% of their geckos from other top breeders. There are some that will find, really cool looking animals that are just kind of with mixed genetic backgrounds and select some nice offspring from those animals, and then when they get the look that they really want, then they could start test breeding and figure out what it's het for, and then they can go ahead and market it as a pure or just with one or two hets, but they know what the hets are, and they can go ahead and charge more money for it.
Look what John's done with his tangerines. They're incredible. He's mixed a bunch of different lines, Gecko Genetics, Bloods and stuff, and he's getting purple heads. He's getting all kinds of cool stuff, right?
Yeah, and he's kept track of, the lines, and he labels them as, exactly what they are, and he's taken them in a couple different directions, which is what I find really cool. He still has some of that original stock, so he can still go back to that if he needs, different genetics, but at the same time, it's evolved into so many different things. And I think that's probably the toughest part. When we talk about test breeding and everything else, I think the toughest part is when you start test breeding and then you find really cool animals and you got to start all over again, You and you want to keep so many. Yeah, you want to keep so many that there's no way that you can do it.
That is the that's the drawback of being a gecko breeder.
But at the same time, that's the fun part.
Isn't this the coolest thing? I mean, seriously, anybody that's listening to the show that's involved in this, I don't know what's cooler than leopard geckos. I mean, seriously, you guys, we could do so much with these things, and look what already's been done. I mean, we're just getting started. All right, let's take another call before we go to the break. Caller from the 30 area code. Actually, somebody's been on longer. Caller from the 614 area code. You're live on Gecko Nation Radio. 614, what's up? There, caller? No? Okay. We'll go to the next one. 630, you're live on the air.
Hello?
Hello, who's this?
This is Nez.
Okay.
I had a leopard gecko before, and I was wondering, I'm planning on getting back into them, and I was wondering what morphs you would recommend for me.
For a beginner?
I've had one before. I think it was a marbled leopard gecko.
Okay.
Thing along those lines.
Yeah.
I'm planning on getting back into them and breeding them.
Okay. Well, it's hard for me to tell you which one to pick because I love all of them. So I'm the worst person to ask when it comes to that. But, just from hearing me talk, I really like bandits and stuff like that. You're going to have to go through the morphs, check them out, visit different websites and look at different pictures and decide what's appealing to you. You'll know it when you see it. When you look at a certain morph and you're like, wow, I really like that, or that's the one I want to. You'll know it when you see it. So don't worry about what's popular or what a lot of people are working on. We'll focus on what you find appealing. Like, for instance, I'm sure there's certain cars out there that you really like that are cooler than others. Some people like Lamborghinis, some people like Mercedes, whatever. And, if you had to pick one car to drive, I'm sure you could decide. So think about it that way. Think about, well, if I'm going to breed one leopard gecko morph, which one, do I find most appealing? So does that help you a little bit?
Yeah, I was looking at super snows and stuff. So
okay.
I would also
cool.
Where do you live?
I live in Illinois.
Oh, well, if you're not too far from Tinley, then
I always go to Tinley.
Oh, then you have all the options you want right there, and you could certainly find some nice super snows, and you can look around and get them direct from a reputable breeder, and have plenty of choices on what to pick out.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for calling in. All right, Tim, what do you say we take a quick break and do a little? You want to do a little more talking today? We've got some more callers on the line.
Sure. We'll take a few more calls. How about this? How about just for the callers to kind of be ready when we bring them on? If you want to talk about any of the projects that you're going to be working on in 2015 and talk about what you hope to produce from those projects.
Cool. Okay. All right, hang tight, folks. We'll be right back.
Gecko Nation Radio is a David's Fine Geckos creation and production. You can visit the show's Facebook page at Gecko Nation Radio. I also have a great family-friendly group on Facebook called Gecko Nation. Apply for membership today. Gecko Nation Radio is sponsored by Gecko Boa Reptiles, is your source for the highest quality leopard gecko morphs and wild types, from white and yellows to radars, amazing tremper morphs, and rare subspecies. John is a world-class breeder and extremely knowledgeable. If you're looking for something truly special in geckos, contact John Scarborough at geckoboa.com and on Facebook. Rainbow Mealworms is the largest worm grower in the world and selling to the public since 1956. If you need the highest quality mealworms, superworms, and crickets for your pets, contact them at www.rainbowmealworms.net. Ron Tremper is the biggest contributor to leopard gecko morph making, known worldwide for his amazing examples of living art. You can now download his Leopard Gecko Care app, his Morph Encyclopedia app called Leopard Gecko Pro, and visit his site, leopardgecko.com, to see where morphs are made. Supreme Gecko is a great source for crested geckos, day geckos, and other species, including micro geckos. Wally Kern is a top-notch breeder and gecko enthusiast. Visit supremegecko.com for his available animals and supplies. abdragons.com is your source for the highest quality dubia roaches. Whether you're starting a colony of your own or just need feeders for your insect-eating herps, abdragons.com can't be beat in quality or price. They are also a huge distributor of FlexWatt reptile heat tape and have very competitive pricing. Check out abdragons.com online and on Facebook.
That's right, folks. And with AV Dragons, make sure you use the code GECKO, all in caps, at checkout. You're going to get 5% off your order. That's good all the time for Gecko Nation Radio listeners. But like I said, make sure you mention Gecko Nation Radio with any of our sponsors, and they're going to hook you up. All right, Tim. Let's take another caller. Caller from the 407 area code. You're live on Gecko Nation Radio.
Hey, Dave. How you doing? This is Artie. Just listening.
Hey, Artie,
calling.
what's up?
Not much. I wanted to call and say hi. I know you guys, I wanted to talk about a little excited project that I'm working on and wanted to share with you guys live on the air.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so, like, I've got a lot of little projects I'm working on. Like, I'm still fairly a novice at all this, and I kind of, look at you guys and use your guys' examples, what you creating to kind of motivate me to take little projects. So my little pet project for the last couple of years has been black blood emeralds that I'm working on.
Okay.
And I'm refining the look now and kind of trying to establish, I don't want to say a trademark look, but what do you guys, like when you're starting your own stuff, what is it that you guys tend to look for in a new animal, because I haven't seen it out there. I haven't seen any really black blood emeralds out. I have blood emeralds, and now, I've used that to kind of push towards getting the black blood emeralds. And I'm starting to get a defined look that I like, but what is it that gives you the eureka moment? How do you know? Like, I'm still trying to figure that out myself.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Tim. I'll let you take this one.
It's that's for you to decide. It's kind of like if you're writing a book and you read it over and you edit it and you keep plugging along and changing this and changing that. It's up to you to decide what look you're going for and what you want to produce.
Well, Artie, you said you're mixing the black bloods with the emeralds, right? So you're trying to go for a dark but yet colorful gecko, right?
Correct. Yeah, I want the dark hue, the dark blood, black blood coming in, but with the greenish emerald hue to pop out. I wouldn't say necessarily banded, maybe because the one I have, one is banded that I've been able to produce kind of to starting to look. One is banded, the other one's more of a jungly pattern, and they all came from Ron's. I mixed one of Ron's blood emeralds and then some black blood black blood that I got from JMG, and
nice.
And then so I'm working them in, and so the colors are popping, but I like I want to still give their original line, credit. I don't want to take away from the original line and yet still kind of combine them together. And I'm still trying to figure that out.
Okay, well, first off, Artie, I would make a bunch of them, okay? Because you're gonna see some diversity in your offspring, and then from that point on, start picking the ones that you find, best represent what you're going for, and you're likely not going to see the end result in the first breeding season. So you're going to have to look for the ones that are, start leaning towards that look that you like. And then from that point on, you make sure you hold on to those and use those for breeding in the future.
Gotcha. Yeah, because I know the females are starting to get up there in size, and ovulation is coming soon. So I'm kind of getting a little nervous because I'm going to launch it. And like I said, it's my only project that I've actually decided to do on my own without, it being something I've already seen out there. And so I'm pretty excited about it. And just wanted to share it with you guys and also get some advice from, people that have way more experience than me.
That's cool. I wish you the best of luck with that. It sounds like a fun project, actually. So,
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you guys for having me on.
Thanks for calling. Take care, Artie.
Cool. Good luck.
Wow, that sounds cool.
That's definitely something that you don't hear too many people, working towards.
Yeah, I'm wondering how that'll work. Do you think maybe that the black blood would overpower the greenish hue a bit, or do you think maybe? I don't know. What do you think?
I think that he'll end up with 2 or 3 projects out of that.
Yeah, that's the thing. Oh
actually,
man.
I could.
You know what?
Actually, I can guarantee you that he will.
Yeah, that's the problem. Well, I mean, seriously, folks. I mean, I got a lot of geckos here, and I have all these little side projects because of that. Because you start noticing all these little traits popping up. Some are different than others, and you're like, wow, I'd like to make a bunch of these. And then you'll see this look, and this one's a little different. Wow, I'd like to make a bunch of those. And it never ends. It's just, and you got to accommodate all those geckos after a while. So that's part of my problem. That's why I got to downsize a little bit. Man, if I had unlimited space, I think if a lot of us had unlimited space, time, and money, we would have all different types of geckos available, all different hues, ranging in intensity, and I don't know. It would be crazy, but it's good that
then we'd
we
be
have a
like
bunch of different people too.
Then we'd be like Ron Tremper and Steve Sykes.
Pretty much, right?
Yeah. and Mike Lehman, and we'd have an army of employees running around like crazy, and we'd spend more time worrying about employees than the geckos. And,
I know. Yeah, I wouldn't want to worry. I mean, when you run a big business, you're worried of.
Could you imagine like multiple generations of animals that like you may have never even seen, and you see one, and they're like, oh yeah, we've been producing those for a few years. Could you imagine having that many animals?
Oh yeah, I mean, I would love to take just a walk through that place and look through the gecko bins. I'm sure I'd pick out a bunch of stuff that they overlook every day. You're talking.
And it's the same thing when you walk around the show. It's the same thing when you walk around the show. Like I'm sure you do it when you have a really good show where you sell a lot of your animals, and that money's burning a hole in your pocket, and you're not thinking about paying any of the bills that are coming up, or any or investing in any racks or anything. You turn around and say, you know what? That looks good over there, and that looks good, and let's go get some.
Yeah, exactly. Let's hit on Gerard's topic here. Gerard Gary says, any morphs that involve rainwater bloodlines that are being worked on, and anything new combining with the raptor lines. All right, well, I can touch on rainwater. As far as I'm concerned, raining red stripes and firewaters have yet to be topped, in my opinion. I think they're still the coolest rainwaters out there. And You know, I mean, some of the white and yellow rainwaters that are starting to pop out. I know Don Hamilton, he was a guest on the show a while back. He's producing some pretty cool ones. They're starting to look nice. I think it's going to take a few more years of refinement to get them really, really cool. But Gerard, if I were you and you like rainwaters, well, actually, I could say one other rainwater that I find really appealing are the snow patternless rainwaters. Myself, Steve Barker has some really nice ones. They're like a whitish yellow cream color. They're so pretty. But out of those three, I don't know. The Firewater, the Atomic rainwaters are nice. Those are my favorites. What do you think, Tim?
You know what? I don't think I've seen anybody breed bandits to rainwaters. Have you ever seen that worked on?
I don't know. You know, most bandits have a slim chance of being het Tremper. I don't think it'd be advantageous to even cross that into a rainwater. I mean, what's the point? Why don't we just make Tremper the bandits? But if somebody wants to go do it,
Well, if you have test bred and you know, I'm after a couple seasons of test breeding, I'm heading towards being certain that my male bandit is not het for Tremper.
Okay, well, that's cool. That's good.
So,
that's a good goal to have. Yeah.
So right there, if I wanted to work on it, I could, cross him into it and see what those look like.
Yeah, I mean, who knows what they're going to look like, right? It may surprise you. It may be. I mean, I tend to think that rainwaters in their simplest form tend to look like Tremper albinos anyway. So, but some people are kind of just, they're just all Tremper people or all Bell people, or all rainwater, and they like just working with one type of albino, and to be able to make a bandit rainwater might be really appealing to them. So, who am I to say don't do it? You know what I mean? I'll tell you the truth, though, it's not something I would spend the time working on, but if that's what you want to do, Tim, that's cool, man. I think it's something that nobody's done before, so it's definitely worth doing. That's for sure. And who knows?
And what's interesting is that even though the albinos, as you mentioned, some rainwaters, are almost indistinguishable from Trempers, on the outside, just from their physical appearance. Sometimes when you do those crosses, the cross could look very different, and I think that's something that's very interesting. And as you said, you don't know until you do it, or until you've seen somebody else do it. But it still leaves so many projects open for people to work on. If they think that, they see what you're working on and what John's working on and Matt and Ron and all these other breeders, there's still so many other things to be done.
I got a good idea for you. Marcia has been working on Bold Stripe and Bold Jungle rainwaters for quite some time. And, to just pick any rainwater to start with to breed to a bandit, I wouldn't do that. If I were you, I would try to grab something from her. And so you're already starting with something that's bold. And she's already put the time in to make those look really cool. So you can take that bold rainwater, breed it to the bandit. So within 2 generations, you'll likely start seeing the results you want. What do you think about that?
Exactly. That's exactly the direction I would go if I was to get into that.
Yeah. Well, if somebody's listening right now and saying, "Oh, I'm going to go buy one of those. I'm going to beat Tim to it." That's funny. All right. Well, I wish you luck with that, Tim. I hope that goes good. Gerard also wants to know about Raptors, Raptor lines. Yeah, but Raptors it's an old favorite. Anything with color in Raptors looks cool. I would look for, I would try to make the most colorful Raptors as possible, unless you're going for snow Raptors. And snow Raptors are awesome too. So, there's nothing beats a nice white raptor with nice solid red eyes and, some pattern in it, maybe some striping or reverse striping. Those things are so cool. It's an older morph. It's been around for, I don't know, 15 years now. What's it been, Tim? 10 years? At least 10 years, right, Raptors?
I'm not sure.
Yeah. Well,
yeah, I would say more than 10.
Yeah, let's see. I got Ron's site pulled up right here. If you guys want to know the history on some of these morphs we're talking about, go to leopardgeckos.com. Okay, and there's a section called Available, but then you can look through the different combos and stuff that different morphs, and you can read about them. Well, he's got some nice eclipses for sale. I don't know. Every time I go on Ron's site, I wind up spending $400. I got to stop doing this. Look at this. This is just what. Oh no, it's different. I think Elsa. No, it's sold. Wow, you missed out on a really cool male tangerine caratail. It's het radar, not raptor though. I don't have any information on here about the history. Oh wait, it's all the way at the bottom. There it is. In March 2004, the eclipse gene was discovered in 2004, and then I guess in the next year, wow, so the raptor really isn't that old. It's about 10 years old. Yeah, interesting. Wow, there's a lot of good information on his site, folks. Definitely check it out. All right, let's see. Daniel Martindale asks about pure blood, pure subspecies. Okay. Well, I don't know. The Afghanicus are the coolest ones in my opinion. What do you think, Tim?
Definitely. Especially, you produced a really cool one last breeding season, right? How's that one looking? You got to post some updates, some updated pictures of that girl.
Okay, yeah, I will. It's a bit of a slower grower, but it's still kind of cool looking. It definitely hatched out with a bit of a jungle-ish look to it, which is cool and different. You don't see that. I don't know. I've never seen that. Have you seen any others out there with that kind of look?
Hers was very unique, and I think John produces some really cool looking ones, and he also has like the most diverse ones, not only genetically but also in just their look, their physical look.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and John's site is geckoboa.com, folks, if you want to check out his stuff. So, yeah, I mean, the subspecies, there's a whole bunch of them now, Dan, that you can choose from. I personally like the Afghanicus and Efasciolatus. I love the Efasciolatus. Anything you breed an Efasciolatus to just gets better, in my opinion. They add just vigor and overall size to a gecko, and the genetics in the Efascios are just awesome. It's just a nice, big, tough gecko. It really is. Stocky and strong. But, you got the Montanus, the Turkmenicus and stuff. The Montanus and the Turkmenicus don't really do too much for me personally. I know a lot of people like them, and that's cool. But my opinion, they're not, they kind of look similar. Takes a trained eye to really see the differences in these subspecies, some of them. But, I mean, they're cool. I mean, if you want to keep them, I think there is definitely a good following for just keeping certain subspecies lines pure. So if that's what you like, go for it. And there's definitely a place for that. And I think everybody should have at least one subspecies project in their collection, and find one you like. The new ones that are coming out now that are becoming more readily available are the Angler Manus and now the Fuscus. Those are cool. They're still expensive, but and I think there's another one, right? What's the new one that's coming out? Do you know about the other one, Tim?
I'm not too familiar with it, no. But I have seen the picture floating around.
Right. There's another one coming out soon. I guess it's going to be really expensive. So, but no, subspecies are cool. If you're interested in subspecies, definitely check out geckoboa.com. All right, John's got the best ones in the country right now. So, all right, let's see. Aaron Dunn asks, he wants to know about the differences in giants and supergiants and how to distinguish the two apart. Okay. I haven't done a hell of a lot of work with giants and supergiants, and so I'm really not the best person to ask about them. You know, according to Ron, who's been working with them, you know, since he created them, more or less, or since they started appearing in his collections. Let's see. It's a codominant trait. That's what he says. I know some breeders are saying that it could act as a recessive sometimes, and then other people think it's just line bred, and then other people think it's a little bit random. But I mean, the bottom line is, if you're breeding big geckos together, you know, chances are your offspring are going to be big. But if you're serious about giants and supergiants, Ron Tremper, leopardgecko.com, that's the guy to go to. He doesn't even sell them unless he knows for sure that they're giants. He won't sell them before they're 8 or 9 inches long and weigh a certain amount of grams. I'm looking at his site right now, and he's got one that's 118 grams. That's a big male. He's got that. Let's see. Here's a female for 106 grams. So, and there's a whole write-up about the giants and how he. Here's his largest one was Moose. That one passed away a couple years ago, but that one was 170 grams. I mean, that's huge. That's a big leopard gecko. So, yeah, giants are cool. I know Steve Sykes has Godzilla. How big is that one, Tim? Do you know?
I believe Godzilla has passed away too.
Oh, really? Yeah.
I'm not sure of his weight, but I know it was just under 12 inches.
That's big. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Let's see.
Dave,
Sean Gray.
How about
What?
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to. No, you go first, and I'll bring up the next mark.
I was going to say, talking about projects, how can you go through the show and not bring up your curly tails?
It's not a big project of mine. Curly tails.
But simply in terms of test breeding and creating something new from something that has you found a couple, you're starting a project, you can just talk about it in those terms.
Yeah, I'm just curious to see what's going on with it. The way I see it is this: it's obviously a deformity of some kind, or just a random thing, but it's going to take time to figure out what's actually happening. Like, why is that? I'm more interested in why it's happening or why this is occurring, because it's interesting. It really is. There are geckos out there that have naturally curly tails, and there's animals out there that have curly tails, and some leopard geckos are starting to develop them. I did an article for Herp House magazine all about it. You guys can check that out if you'd like. Yeah, the curly tails. The way I see it is this: with any domesticated animal, and I believe leopard geckos are domesticated, if not on their way to being domesticated after 30 plus years of being in captivity now, and all the different morphs that we have. But in time, people have changed the appearance of dogs and cats, birds, and other animals. They're not only color and pattern, but also physical attributes. And I'm not the person that feels like pioneering a gecko to look like a pig or something, but I find it interesting and fascinating how the genes work, and that, to me, that's what it is. It's about the genetics and how it works and why is it working that way. And so I'm basically just playing around with a couple here that I have and seeing how it works. And so far, it seems to be a line bred thing. So, and it doesn't hurt the gecko in any way whatsoever. In fact, these geckos can hold on pretty tight with these tails, and they can uncurl them at will. And it's interesting to see how they how their locomotion is. So, yeah, I don't know. It's just a little side project. It's nothing huge. But a lot of people like them. There are some people that criticize it, and it is what it is. But how are we going to figure out why it's happening if nobody works with it or nobody tries to do anything with it? What do you think about them, Tim?
It isn't something that I would work with, but at the same time, it's not something that I would criticize. They're the biggest thing, in my opinion, is that there are no detrimental attributes or characteristics associated with it. If it was something like there are a lot of eyelid deformities in geckos, and that pop up in leopard geckos, and who knows what the reasons are. Some of them might be genetic, some of them might be due to vitamin deficiencies or imbalances, and you don't know till you test it out. So if one of these crazy looking new morphs popped out and happened to have the curly tail associated with it, you would be the person that's going to get the call and say, all right, look, I had this crazy thing pop out, and if it does, as you said, it's early in your test breeding, but if you can, in a couple years from now, if you could tell that person, oh, it's a polygenic thing, and you just can, if you don't want it, you can just breed away from it, and selectively breed, and then you'll have that crazy new morph without it, and you would have greatly benefited that person, right then and there from the work that you've done.
Yeah, I know. I've had a couple competitors try to use that as ammunition against me, and that's fine. You gotta grab it whatever you can. I mean, I don't go after people like that. I'm not competitive that way. But
are they also calling up pug breeders and other dog breeders, telling them to stop breeding those dogs?
I know, right? Exactly. I mean, that's my feeling on it. But
bulldogs. Bulldogs is a perfect thing to talk about. If you want to talk about detrimental, things or things you shouldn't breed for, bulldogs
they got a lot of health problems. Yeah.
Have all of those things. They can barely even reproduce without human intervention.
I don't know. You got to stick them together more or less, right? You got to hold them together.
Oh, I don't know about that
just
part.
Right.
I was thinking more in terms of the birth. They have to have surgeries to give birth. They can't even have natural babies, puppies.
Yeah.
So
that's extreme.
You're nowhere near that. So.
Well, I don't want to be. I'm not. There's other people that have them and that are working with them. I'm just the only one that's, I guess, in the spotlight more or less that has them. So, yeah, folks, I'm not the leader of the curly tail movement. All right, so that's just. I don't know. I'm just curious.
But yeah, you're going about it as a scientific experiment. You
Yes.
You have that look, that physical trait, and you're checking to see how it's what makes it happen, what makes it go, and and that's totally up to you. And as I said, the only thing that I would knock is if there was something else associated with it that was very detrimental. If it
right.
If it couldn't eat properly, if it couldn't do things on its own, then I would say, I would steer clear of it. But
well, let's see, we got a good one here. Jason Gallant asks about Diablo Blancos quality, and he says he's heard that there are people that have tried to sell Diablo Blancos that weren't really Diablo Blancos, where they had no Eclipse in them. Well, that's a good one, Jason. Yeah, because the Blizzard gene, a Diablo Blanco is a Tremper albino Blizzard Eclipse. Okay, and as we discussed earlier, the Blizzard gene can produce its own eye pigment. So you could have a gecko that is pure white with red eyes or snake eyes that, looks like a Diablo Blanco, but it's really just a Blazing Blizzard, and it doesn't have the actual Eclipse gene in it. So that, this again comes to trusting your breeder, okay, and knowing, or knowing that they're working with true Diablos and they've put the time in. The best Diablo Blancos today will come from Ron Tremper and his lines, people working directly with his lines that have kept them pure and kept them straight. So, if you really like that, trying to do it yourself from heads or whatever is going to take you a long time. It's going to take you several years to get it right. So, I don't know. You work with any Diablos, Tim?
Nope.
No? Yeah, I have a few here. They're cool. It's not a big project of mine, but I like them.
Well, why don't you quickly go over what are the ingredients?
I did. I just said it's the Blizzard, Tremper Albino, and Eclipse in the Diablos.
Sorry,
it's
I missed that.
3G. Yeah, it's three recesses. Okay. For those of you folks that don't know about them. Yeah, I mean, it's another combo morph that Ron Tremper invented or developed, however you want to look at it. And just go on a site, go to Diablo Blancos when they're available, and you can read about it. So,
you know what? One thing, I don't know if I've mentioned this to you before, but I think it's a very interesting conversation to have. If there was another albino that popped out and it looked similar to the three albino strains that we currently have, do you think it would be discovered? Or what are the chances that it would be discovered? Basically,
the only way
because there are so many people that are breeding mixed morphs, if there was that new random mutation that popped out, do you think that the first thing they would say is, "Oh, I have a new albino strain," or do you think that chances are they'd say, "Oh, I didn't know that I had tainted genetics. I just popped out a Tremper or a Bell or a Rainwater." Right?
Imagine if that's already. I'm who knows? That could have already happened, and I know some breeders have been crucified for people so-called discovering unwanted genetics in their things. And but I would think, Tim, though, I think you're right. I think it would be overlooked at this point, unless it popped out in one of these lines of subspecies, and at that point we'd have a fourth albino strain. And God, I hope that doesn't happen, because what a mess having three is, I mean,
I think if it had a much different look, I think it would be. I would be happy,
Like a caramel albino.
No, just something different. I don't even know. I wouldn't even want to try to guess what it would look like, but I just think that if it looked totally different than the three that we have, I think it would be cool.
Well, technically, the three that we have are amelanistic, aren't they?
I don't know. I'm not too educated on that.
Yeah, I have to look into that. Well, with
and we don't know if they're tyrosinase positive or negative, correct?
I don't know about that either. I'm not keen on that, how that works either. We got to have our geneticist back on for that.
We'll get the doctor back. That's
interesting. Well, yeah, I mean, unless you're working with a line that you are 100% certain about, and then something hatched out that was weird, that you could say was a new albino strain. I don't know, man. That's tough. And then you're going to have to endure criticism because nobody's going to believe it for years. I mean, seriously. I mean, I could just see the mayhem that would ensue with something like that. I'll give you an example. Actually, I was talking with John about this the other day. I bred a extreme emerine from Ron Tremper's line to a really nice emerine that I acquired from another breeder, and I produced, and they were het for Tremper. I knew that going into it. Well, of course they are. Well, the one gecko was het for Tremper, and so I produced some albinos versions, and they all look great. But the exception, one of them came out looking like a snow albino. I mean, this thing is white, and I'm thinking to myself, what did I just discover? And I'm pretty knowledgeable about how genes look now. I've hatched out enough geckos to know what things should look like, and this thing is so light. I mean, it looks like a snow albino. And I'm thinking to myself, geez, could this be a recessive snow of some kind? Could this be something new? And it's too light to just say, oh, it's just a variation in the color. This thing, I mean, I haven't posted a picture of it yet. It's still kind of small, but I don't know. It's weird. Put it that way. Really, really weird. So, what do you think about that, Jim?
Sounds like you got a new project on your hands.
Oh, of course. Yeah, another project. Yeah, now I have 55. Yeah.
Is it a male or a female?
Too young to tell, but it looks like it's a female.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, of course is right. Yeah, it's weird though. I'll take a picture of it maybe during the week and I'll post it. I have its sibling too. Actually, yeah, the sibling looks normal, like a normal albino version. So I don't know.
Yeah, that's interesting.
That's how it happens, folks. That's how new things pop out, randomly. And if you're producing numbers, it's a numbers game. So if you're producing substantial numbers or anything, sooner or later you should, start seeing some new stuff come around. And I'm actually at the point where I may start, parting with some of my side projects to people that really want to work with them, because I just have too many of these smaller projects going on that are just taking up a lot of space, and I need to downsize a little bit here. And so if anybody's seriously interested in working on something that could be cool, contact me, okay? And I may sell you some. I'd like them to go to responsible people that are going to put the time in, try to figure it out, Like I have this one project, they're bold animals, but they have some striping. It almost looks like the striping starts on top of the head and runs down the neck into the back. So basically, with enough line breeding, I was thinking that you could create a stripe from the nose to the tail. I mean, this is something that would take years, of course, but I have a few animals here that have these characteristics, and it's just a side project, but it take a lot of time, and I got a lot of those kind of things. So some of those I may part with. So. But what do you think about that, Tim? A gecko with a stripe from its nose to its tail, because most stripes kind of start at the back of the neck, and run down their back,
Yeah, I think that's definitely a cool project to work on, and you want it to go to someone that and will keep in touch with you, and that if in the future, you want to get some of those genetics back, you can always get them back.
Mhm. Right.
Because there are
I got a
so
nice
many.
male that has it.
I'm sure there's so many cool projects that have just been lost and are gone forever. And and that's it. That's how they go. And you don't want that to happen to because you know the potential that if you were to create that, it would be such a cool-looking animal that everyone would want one.
I brought them to the last show, and I was hoping, I actually brought them to the last 2 shows, and I was hoping somebody would notice it. I mean, you didn't even notice it. And it's a subtle little thing, but if you look closely, you'd be like, oh, wow, that's something cool, you know? And I brought the male and I brought one of the females with me to both shows, and nobody picked up on it. And I spotted these animals, you know, from, you know, one of them hatched in my collection and one of them I actually bought. So, you know, I actually have 2 hatched in my collection and one I bought. So, and I noticed it, and you know, you gotta look close sometimes. You really gotta look close, and that's the key to becoming really good at this. You got to be able to notice things that other people just don't pick up on. And you know, most of us that stick with this, put the time in, you guys will get it, and you'll be ahead of the game. So it's all about genetics and to have the dedication, and to have the dedication to stick with it for a few generations, so you know what's going on, or you know what you have. And yes, the stamina. Gotta have stamina. I mean, some of these things you could be developing them for 2-3 years and not produce the results that you want, and then on that 4th or 5th year, boom, you'll hit on what you want. That's the whole thing. You can't give up on it. That's like going back to what our caller Artie was talking about. I see you still on the line, Artie. If you may not produce anything that looks like what you're going for the first year. I mean, chances are you won't, but keep doing it, man, and keep working with it, because then eventually you'll likely hit on what you want, and when you do, wow, you're going to be really happy. That's for sure.
You gotta make it to the finish line.
Right, and don't listen to anybody that criticizes your work. When you're doing something, when you're good at something, you're gonna have folks that'll support you and really admire your work, and then you're gonna have folks that are gonna criticize. They'll find any little thing to criticize you about. Only focus on the people that bring you up and encourage you. Okay, because if you listen to the other folks, you're not gonna last long in this, because there are sure some negative folks too. But just do your best work, and I don't know, have fun with this. That's the whole key, folks. Have fun. I think this is one of the coolest things that we have available to us. I really do. I mean, how cool is it to be able to, and as Ron coins it, living art, how cool is it that all of us now have access to these animals, and we can all develop our own, projects and our own looks, and if you like a certain trait about a gecko, you can work on that and develop, refine it, change it a little bit if you want, and then get surprised by new things that'll pop up maybe in your collection, and then work with that. I mean, I can't envision myself ever stopping this, because it just keeps changing and evolving, and it keeps re-engaging my interest. It's not something that I get bored of, and I know a lot of folks out there aren't getting bored of this anytime soon. So. It's an awesome thing. And if you found this, you're very, very lucky. And I always tell people, if you found this and you love this, try to get somebody, at least one other person involved, so that they can enjoy it too. And I don't know, Tim, what do you say we end the show on that note, on a positive note?
Sounds good, Dave. What do we have going on next weekend?
Let's see. Let me bring up the schedule real quick. I'll tell you. We got a bunch of cool guests coming up, folks. We got a lot of good shows planned.
And what expos? What's the next expo you have coming up?
The next one I'll be at is Hamburg, Pennsylvania. I don't know. And then after that, again, the next White Plains show. All right, let's see. Okay, next week we have Artie Sands Geckos. Okay, he's coming on. He's got a cool thing that he's doing for veterans, and he's helping veterans with geckos. He's got this new project he's working on. So we're going to talk with Artie about that. And then the week after that, we have the Leopard Gecko Power Couple coming on. We have Ron and Helene Tremper coming on 125. And then 2-1, February 1st, is Mr. Brian Barczyk. We're going to talk about Animal Bites, the overnight success of what he's working on, which is just awesome. And from there we got, John Scarborough's coming up. We got Mike's Fat Frogs, Sea Serpents, Rex, and Ball Pythons with Steve Barker. So, yeah, we got some cool shows. Yeah, folks, thank you very much for coming in and listening tonight. And everybody that called in, really appreciate your feedback and your ideas, and everybody that joined in on the group and gave us some topics. And that was great. I think we did a good job talking about all kinds of different morphs tonight. So if you're a beginner, you heard us talk about a bunch of different things. Check them out, look them up, find out what you like, and good luck with your projects. All right, Tim, I will let you go. I hope you have a good night, and we'll do it again next week.
Sounds good. Take care, Dave. Good night, everybody.
All right. Okay, cool. All right, folks, I'm going to go ahead and play the outro. I'll come back with my closing remarks, and then I'll play an awesome song.
Gecko Nation Radio is a David Fine Geckos creation and production. You can visit the show's Facebook page at Gecko Nation Radio. I also have a great family-friendly group on Facebook called Gecko Nation. Apply for membership today. The jazz music you heard tonight was generously donated and created by Jeremy Turgeon of J&D Reptiles. Thank you very much, Jeremy, for the great musical pieces. You can check out Jeremy at J&D Reptiles on YouTube and on Facebook. And a very special thank you to our news anchor, graphic designer, and audio tech, Steve Barker. All the graphics, audio sponsor plugs, and music overlays were assembled by Steve. Check out Steve on YouTube at BC Barker Creations. He has some terrific videos for the herp community with amazing geckos and snakes. Please support the U.S. Herpetocultural Alliance and USARK. Gecko Nation Radio is proud to support both of these organizations. Please donate to USARK so that they have the funds needed to legally protect pet owners' rights nationwide. You can donate to the USARK Legal Defense Fund at www.usark.org. If you would also like to learn about advocacy and how you can take action on a state and local level, please subscribe to the U.S. Herpetocultural Alliance newsletter and blog at www.usherp.org.
All right, folks, my closing remarks are this. Look at what we have to work with today with leopard geckos. From bandits to tangerines to patternless, albinos, and every combo you could possibly think of in between. And there's a lot of combos and stuff that haven't even been done yet. And, there's just so much that's still left to do. Find something that you like and work with it, run with it, and see what happens, because you never know. You may just hatch out the next coolest thing, and that'll be great. If you do, show it off in the Gecko Nation group. That'll be cool. Awesome. All right, I'm going to thank my sponsors. Our sponsors are awesome. I'm just, all of us here at Gecko Nation Radio are very proud to have these folks on board. These people are just great breeders, great businesses. Number one, Dale's Bearded Dragons has been with us from the very beginning, before we were ever even anything cool or special. Well, I guess we're always special, but show didn't always have such a great following in the beginning. It was something we had to build, and Dale's Bearded Dragons believed in the project from the start. So I want to thank them. And, of course, if you need anything reptile-related, any kind of supplies, supplements, stuff like that, see them at any of the expos in the Northeast or online. And make sure you mention Gecko Nation Radio for 10% off at any of the expos. AB Dragons, best source for duvia roaches. Check them out online, abdragons.com. Use the code GECKO, all in caps at checkout for 5% off anytime. All right. Geckoboa.com, John Scarborough. Awesome breeder, awesome geckos. I can't say enough good things about him. Everybody loves him. Everybody loves his genetics. Check out geckoboa.com. Supreme Gecko, Wally Kern, another great breeder doing awesome work with cresties, day geckos, and micro geckos, and all kinds of cool stuff. So check out supremegecko.com. OhioGecko.com, Mr. Thad, he's working on some awesome tangerines, fat tails, and cool snow projects, stuff like that. And he's the owner of GeckoForums.net. So check out Ohio Gecko and Gecko Forums. Great stuff. All right, and if you're obviously into reptiles, you're going to have to feed them. And the best place to get your feeders from is RainbowMealworms.net. Worm farm in the world. Jillian Spence runs Rainbow. Great person to deal with. Check out RainbowMealworms.net. And if you're shipping animals, if you're a breeder and you're shipping your animals to customers or whatever, you're going to want to ship them with the company with the best customer service for your FedEx labels. Get it from ReptilesExpress.com. Ask for Debbie Price. If you're new to shipping, she will help you out and teach you how to do it. It's really not that hard. All right. Mr. Ron Tremper, you heard us talk about him tonight. Somebody that's given us so much in the world of leopard geckos. Bandits, Tangelos, Raptors, Eclipses, all kinds of cool combos. Check out Ron Tremper at leopardgecko.com. All right, great stuff. And you'll find a lot of the history there of the different morphs that he created. Information on that. Last but not least, Daryl Burton and Cade Burton from Longhorn Geckos. Check out Longhorn Geckos on Facebook. Mention Gecko Nation Radio if you see anything like on their page. They're a new breeder, new and up-and-coming breeder that's doing some great work with bandits and Tangelos, super Tangelos, pastel raptors, white and yellow stuff, all kinds of cool geckos. All right, so check them out.